Hello everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Find a quiet place, sit back, breathe slowly, and let's begin a story. Picture a small garden. The afternoon is calm. The wind is soft. Under a tree, a young man sits alone. He is not doing anything unusual. He is only thinking. But in that quiet moment, something is about to change. Not only for him, for the whole world. This is the story of Isaac Newton, a man who watched an apple fall from a tree and asked a question that no one had asked before. A man who listened closely to nature, and nature answered him. If this is your first time here, welcome. This channel is a place to learn English through gentle, true stories. Stories that teach you new words and also teach you something about life. So relax. And let's begin. The year was 1642. The place was a small English village called Woolsthorpe. Life was very different then. There were no cars, no lights, no phones. People worked in the fields. They looked up at the sky and wondered about the stars. On a cold winter day in a small farmhouse, a baby boy was born. His name was Isaac Newton. He was very small. So small that people were not sure he would live. His own mother said later that he could fit inside a large cup. His father had already died before Isaac was born. So from his very first day, life was hard for this small child. And yet, this tiny, quiet baby would grow up to change the way every person understands the universe. Sometimes, the greatest stories begin in the smallest, gentlest ways. When Isaac was 3 years old, his mother remarried and moved away. Isaac stayed behind with his grandmother. This was painful for a young child. It left a mark on him. Isaac grew up feeling alone. He did not have many friends. He was not loud or playful like other children. He liked silence. He liked to sit by himself and think. While other boys ran outside, Isaac built small wooden models. He made toy windmills. He studied how water moved and how shadows changed shape in the sun. At school, he was quiet. His teachers did not notice anything special about him at first. But inside his mind, something powerful was slowly growing. Isaac asked questions that other people never thought to ask. He looked at ordinary things, water, light, shadows, and saw something deeper hiding inside them. And even when life was difficult, even when he felt lonely, Isaac never stopped being curious. That quiet curiosity would one day become one of the most powerful tools in human history. When Isaac grew older, he went to study at Cambridge University, one of the finest schools in England. At Cambridge, Isaac found a world made for him, a world of mathematics, astronomy, and what people back then called natural philosophy. Today, we simply call it science. He read the works of great thinkers like Galileo. He studied the movement of the stars. He spent long hours alone in his small room, filling pages with numbers and new ideas. For the first time, Isaac felt like he belonged somewhere. But then, something unexpected happened. A terrible disease called the Great Plague began spreading across England. Cambridge University had to close its doors. Students had to return home. For most people, this felt like the end of their education. But for Isaac Newton, it became the beginning of everything. Isaac returned home to Woolsthorpe and stayed there for almost 2 years, from 1665 to 1667. These 2 quiet years are now known as some of the most remarkable years in the history of science. Isaac had no professors, no classmates, only his mind and the world around him. He took a simple glass prism and discovered that white light is not just one color. It is made of many colors hidden together: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. He also created a brand new kind of mathematics, a way to understand how things move and change. Today, we call it calculus. And then, Isaac turned his attention to the sky. He thought about the moon. about the planets, about why objects fall toward the ground instead of floating away. Slowly, quietly, patiently, an idea began to form in his mind. An idea so simple, and yet so enormous, that it had been waiting for centuries for someone brave enough to discover it. That idea was called gravity. You have probably heard this story before. It is the story of Isaac Newton and the falling apple. One quiet afternoon, Isaac sat in the garden near his home. The air was still. Then, from a branch above him, an apple fell to the ground. Most people had seen apples fall 1,000 times before, but Isaac looked at it differently. He asked a simple question: why does it fall down and not sideways or up? He realized something was pulling the apple toward the earth, something invisible, something powerful, and if that invisible force could pull an apple, maybe it could also pull the moon. Maybe it held the entire universe together. This was the beginning of his theory of gravity, the idea that every object pulls on every other object, everywhere in the universe. It was a simple idea, but it was also enormous. When the plague ended, Isaac returned to Cambridge, but he was a changed man. Those quiet months at home had given him ideas that no one else in the world possessed. At just 26 years old, he became a professor at Cambridge University. He built the world's first reflecting telescope, using mirrors instead of glass to study the stars. Scientists across Europe were amazed. But Isaac was careful. He did not like to share his work until he was completely certain it was correct. For years, he kept his greatest discoveries quietly written in his notebooks. Then, in 1687, after years of silent preparation, he finally published a book. That book was called Philosophies Naturalis Principia Mathematica, often simply called the Principia. Inside it were his 3 laws of motion and his theory of gravity. These ideas explained how planets move, how tides rise and fall, and why an apple always falls to the ground. For the first time in history, the universe did not seem like a mystery. It seemed like an ordered system, one that a quiet man, thinking alone in a small room, had managed to understand. Isaac Newton was one of the greatest minds in history, but he was also a human being, and like all human beings, he was complicated. He was serious and private. He did not enjoy arguments, but when someone challenged his ideas, he could become very defensive. He had a long, painful disagreement with another mathematician, Gottfried Leibniz, about who had discovered calculus first. The argument lasted for years and brought unhappiness to them both. Later in life, Newton also spent many years studying alchemy and theology, trying to understand the deeper meaning behind the universe, not just its physical rules. He believed the universe had been designed with perfect intelligence, and he wanted to understand that intelligence, one question at a time. In his later years, Newton moved to London. He became master of the Royal Mint, helping to protect England's coins from counterfeiters. He also became president of the Royal Society, a position he held for 24 years. In 1705, he was knighted by Queen Anne and became known as Sir Isaac Newton. He never married. He had no children. His life was his work, and his work became his gift to the entire world. Isaac Newton died peacefully in 1727 at the age of 84. He was buried in Westminster Abbey, one of the most honored resting places in England. His ideas did not end with his life. They live on in every science classroom, every telescope, every rocket that leaves the Earth, and every calculation made by engineers today. Newton once wrote a famous line in a letter: "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." It was a humble thing to say. He knew his discoveries were built on the work of others before him, Galileo, Kepler, and many more. He did not see himself as the beginning of knowledge. He saw himself as one small part of a long, continuing journey. And that is the lesson from the life of Isaac Newton. Knowledge is a journey. Discovery is a journey. Learning English is a journey too. Every journey begins with one small, quiet act, the decision to pay attention, to look at the world and simply ask, why? Isaac Newton asked why an apple fell from a tree, and that single question led him to understand gravity, motion, light, and the hidden structure of the entire universe. You are on your own journey right now, learning new words, understanding new sentences, building your English one story at a time. You too are standing on the shoulders of giants. So keep listening, keep learning, keep going. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If this story taught you something new, tell me in the comments which part you liked most, and I will see you in the next story. Take care of yourself until then.